I've got Amanda Jordaan. She is the owner and founder of Grayfeather Consulting. Hi, Amanda, and thank you so much for your time. It's always a privilege to share some, shall we say, space and time with some amazing people in my life. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Lindie. Thanks for the opportunity.
So let's just kick in straight away. You founded Grayfeather Consulting on the back of a really illustrious long career in HR, playing and occupying various roles throughout your career. So maybe just a short, brief summary of events leading up to the decision to start your own company, consulting company. So what was that like, and what led you to the decision to do that?
Lindie, I entered HR not in the usual way. So I didn't go and study HR and then joined a company in a HR operations role, which is what usually happens. I actually always had a great love for books and writing. And I did a communications degree. And after university, the jobs that I could find was related to writing material for new systems that were being built. So it was the user guides of the time. And at that time as well, what you today might know as online help on a system, all of that had to be programmed with the packages that were being developed by the software guys. So for the first part of my career, that's what I did, is I wrote user manuals and online help, which got me a little bit into the technical side. It was the time when SAP, the big ERP systems really started to make an impression, and I sort of progressed into SAP systems and ended up not only writing the user guides, but also doing the SAP training, which then created an opportunity for me at ISCO Mining at that time to become the learning and development manager for all IT-related systems and software. And it was a huge demand. Everybody was new to software, so we ran huge Microsoft training programs and everything related to IT. A lot of the stuff that people teach themselves today, in those days, we had to do in the classroom. And so on the back of that training experience, I moved really into learning and development in a big way, and from learning and development into organizational design and competency development, and finally into human resources, strategic human resources, where I worked across a number of portfolios, including talent acquisition, digital HR, organizational design, etc.
Yeah, and I'm listening to you, Amanda. It's like you've just made a tour through all the various dimensions of what we would normally refer to as an HR portfolio, right? And then eventually decided, that's it, I am now going to exit my formal position, and I'm starting my own consulting company called Grayfeather. So what is Grayfeather about? What is it that you'd like to see happening for Grayfeather now and in the future? So maybe just a little bit of insight into your consulting company. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I had the privilege to work for Dimension Data, which of course is a technology company. And so we were being exposed very early on to things like cloud computing, data centers, etc., when mainstream people wouldn't have known about it. But we knew about it from an HR perspective for all kinds of reasons: recruitment, workforce planning, etc. And I could sort of see that the world was really going to change, and that in HR we had a very poor suitcase of tools to help us help organizations. And so I left because I really wanted to focus on getting out there and helping companies prepare for the future and create and hone those tools that will make a difference in organization. I think the day of operational HR is rapidly passing. With agile organizations, a lot of the old policy work that we used to do, etc., will start disappearing. And the focus will be much more on supporting the strategic intent of the organization. And in HR, we really lack the skills and the tools and the methodologies to do that in a modern age.
Wow. And listening to you, it's absolutely sounds like we are in a massive transitional phase. I'm not sure on the bell curve where we are currently finding ourselves in terms of this unclear, unbeknown for the masses. But what I'm picking up from you is things are changing, and it's changing at a rapid speed. And we need to elevate and change the role of how we saw HR in the past, but becoming far more strategic and I think having a seat at the table, right? And what is that all about? Are we looking to influence direction, and does everything flow from that? So high up in the chain of command, would you see this function playing a role in the future, currently and in the future?
I think, Lindie, what the first thing that's really changed is that culture has become the competitive differentiator of organizations. Oh, wow. You know, if you consider companies like Apple, etc., I read a very good article where somebody was making the point to say, you can steal all Apple's employees, you could steal all their product information, etc., but you still won't be able to build Apple, because what makes Apple Apple is the culture. And so actively building and evolving cultures will become extremely important in the future. And again, more and more as physical assets loses its value, you can see today the companies that are most highly rated. It's on the basis of the culture, on the vision and how that company comes together and how they deliver. That their value is determined. Now, so somebody needs to own that. And I think HR is probably best placed. Whether we've got the right skills in HR remains to be seen. The second thing that's happening is that we're going through the age of the democratization of the worker. So as much as we as citizens of countries went through a succession of revolutions and independence initiatives to become free as citizens, the workplace is going through a similar thing where employees are being seen as important adult contributors by themselves. Now, that takes a completely different style of management, so it means leadership has to change. It is an acknowledged new leadership philosophy, the agile organization. It means structures have to change. It means skill sets have to change. So all of those things have to change. And again, those skills, HR is the best place to drive those initiatives. If they are able to, they could take the ownership there. So it's not so much, I really hate that term, to say a seat at the table. You know, you don't say to finance, well, do you think you now deserve a seat at the table? There's something viscerally real that has to happen in organizations, very important. And HR can deliver that if they're aware and if they've got the means to do so.
And I hear you. I recently read Peter Drucker commenting on the fact that we are currently finding ourselves in unprecedented scale of change. And he said that never, ever in the future of humankind has had so much access to choice. And it's almost like there's a call on both so the players in, let's say, the drama would be the organization, which is the company employing the skill, but then also the responsibility on humans and people taking up employment. So, you know, there's choice either way. And somewhere in this cacophony of variables, these two players need to find one another, but it's unprecedented in terms of choice and how this plays out, and there's responsibility on both sides, right?
Yes, and Lindie, so if I think about the organization, for example, it's exactly what you say, that there's this yin and yang that's starting to happen everywhere. So in organizations will have to transform, but employees will also have to transform.
Absolutely.
It's not the one or the other.
Yes.
I don't think individuals are getting the message. I don't think our educational institutions are necessarily preparing them for that future. So to take us through this period is going to demand a whole lot of energy and focus. Otherwise, we're going to fall back. And in some ways, you can see that. You can see, for example, all the unease in the world around political movements and going back to what we knew before. It's because we don't have the skills to manage with the new way the world operates. And the same will happen in organizations.
Yeah, and I so love what you say. And if I, in my mind, what you're saying, it sounds like going into the future, if we talk about organizations and social or human capital, it's like organizations wants to win at the marketplace, because remember, there's always a sustainable business in mind. I mean, there's stakeholders and all sorts of interested parties invested to see the longevity and growth of the company. So on the one hand, the organization needs to win at marketplace, whatever that means. And I think what you're referring to is creating a strong culture and give reasons for people to stay. I mean, first attract the right skill, and then build an environment and a strong culture where there's other reasons why they would choose to stay, be engaged, and actively contribute to winning at marketplace. But then on the other hand, there is winning at the place of work, and that now then the baton passes onto the individual to say, hang on, how do I make myself indispensable? What are some of the attributes? What are some of the skills and knowledge and things that I need to change in my own mindset, in my capability, and how I look at the world? So yeah, I love the idea that it's a yin yang. I mean, and both, let's say both parties need one another in order to come up with a winning outcome, so to speak, to become competitive, right?
That's right, yes. So I do think as individuals, we have to take it upon ourselves to understand what's required now in workplaces and become that kind of person at the same time as organizations are transforming and shifting.
Yeah. So if we can just quickly talk a little bit about the responsibility of the individual. Now, if we talk information age, going over to conceptualization and the importance of, in the past, left brain analytical thinking, having the ability to come up with unique solutions that's centered in data and programming and solving complex problems, right? But then now moving over to the importance of having the ability to be more creative, more innovative, intuitive decision-making, collaborating. It sounds like us humans needs to now start embracing what it means to be human in terms of a whole context. It's not just left brain or analytical thinking. Now I've got to come up with other skills as well, right? Any ideas around that, how that changes for us as humans?
Yeah, it's it's always a little bit sad for me in organizations how we've become so schizophrenic, where in our lives outside of work we act as adults and we make decisions, we bring up children, we buy houses and cars and we manage our lives. Yet in the workplace we give away all that power. Recently, at a company that regards itself quite as forward thinking, I spoke to one of the employees and we were just commenting on the fact that people are not allowed to really customize their seats. They've got one of these offices where people have to move regularly, which I think is against our psychology. But the woman then said to me, does that mean I can't bring my greatest mom mug or leave my greatest mum mug on the desk. And I thought, here is an adult, sentient human being. She ran a whole department. She's now in a responsible position. And she has to ask, can I put down a mug? That's the extent to which we disempower people in the workplace. And I said to her, just put the mug down. And, you know, if anybody takes you up about it, fight the fight for the mugs, kind of thing. So that's what it is in the workplace. It's for us to own our space again, to start contributing to decision making, to make our own decisions, to be brave enough to stand up against poor leadership, to collaborate with each other. But, you know, sort of just in summary, I think that the people that are needed in the workplace now, people with great self-esteem, self-confidence, brave people, people that can work in teams, but just all around that acts like an adult in the workplace.
Yeah, I couldn't help, you know, seeing in my mind the picture of this human getting in, leaving for work and then leaving like almost a half of me behind, and then, you know, transcending into a different image of self at work. And, you know, it just sounds, how's that even possible? So where do we even start, Amanda? I mean, it sounds like, you know, it is, you know, we are moving into really a complete unknown place. So where do we as individuals start, and where do organizations start? You know, so what is the light in the tunnel, if there's any?
So it is a difficult thing. We at Grayfeather, we saw the shortcoming in the market as we started working with organizations to prepare themselves for the future. And so we run interventions with them where we focus on the leaders, because on the one hand, your leaders have to let go of that controlling boss kind of mentality. But at the same time, we work with the employees to step up and to own their space in the business. And I do think it's a long-term thing of continuous skilling, coaching. It's also the culture, and so here it comes back to the culture, is to create that culture where, if for example, people are acting in the wrong way, to call them out on it, and for leaders to model the right kind of behavior, etc.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you, Amanda, is perhaps saying that, you know, where's the best place to start? Well, we don't really know. Just start. Just start having the conversations. You know, start testing the resilience of our culture against change. See what's been the effect. You know, what are some of the fallouts? Have the courage to address those. And I think, you know, it's almost like, you know, when we grow up as children, you know, mom and dad is fighting, but it's always behind closed doors. You've got some idea of what's going on. You've had this like uneasiness at the pit of your stomach, you know, when's this going to erupt, and will I be prepared for whatever the outcome is? Whereas if I'm just involved in the conversations from the word go, you know, it just takes away the uneasiness. And guess what? Like you say, I can actually contribute, and I can potentially come up with a third perspective. So would you think in it being inclusive, just starting is a good way, you know, by lack of thinking of what else?
So certainly, Lindie. And look, the core of the matter is really about the perspective of the managers. So if you can get managers to change their perspective from, I need to do everything to make me look good, to, I need to do everything to make the people in my team achieve their potential.
Yeah.
It just starts creating those conditions nearly automatically. There's a lovely video on YouTube. It's one of those hand-drawn cartoons. And I think if you look under agile leadership, you'll find it, but it's a captain of a submarine. And it's a true story of a captain of a submarine in the US Navy who got to a point where he said the submarines are becoming so complex, there's no ways he can be responsible for making all the decisions anymore. So he's going to empower his people. And he just went through this process of when they say to him, Captain, will you approve this? He'll counter them with a question. He'll say, what are we trying to achieve? And then they'll say, we want to achieve this. And then say, what's the best way to achieve it? And so just through reflecting all the time, he sort of trained that team into taking much more ownership and responsibility for what they need to do.
Yeah, and it's completely moving away, Stephen, from command control towards trusting inspirational leadership, where I don't have to have all the answers. I just need to be the steward. Seeing leadership as a stewardship. You are in my trust. I'm responsible for you, but my only job as a leader is to create an environment where you get to flourish, be the best version of yourself, and collectively we can come up with a solution for the best of the company. And it is actually topsy-turvy in terms of what we've gotten used to in terms of traditional leadership or management systems, right?
Yeah, and I think that stewardship is so important. I think there's very little evidence of that in our companies anymore. Like I say, managers are sort of, I'm here to make me look good.
Yeah.
As opposed to I'm holding this team and part of this organization in stewardship for the future.
Yeah.
So giving them a sense of their responsibilities is actually much broader. It's much more important. And there's a kind of a longevity to it that will outlast them.
Absolutely.
So don't just act for short-term self-interest.
Just a final point on what is now required of us as humans, and again, thinking about the importance of self-awareness, understanding self, accepting self, and therefore being okay. It's that typical scale of I'm okay, then you're okay. So it's all about the paradigm, the way, the perspective we look at ourselves, because that forms almost like a barrier or a lens through which we then make opinions about everyone around us. And again, I think there's a lot that can be done around self-awareness and working with people in organizations, cultivating, like you say, a sound, healthy self-esteem, come to terms with self, both the good and the bad, and then embracing that and seeing that as development or areas where I can develop once the awareness is there.
Yeah, look, and of course that's an activity that starts in the home. And so the self-esteem and self-confidence has to be addressed in the early years of childhood. I think one of the problems for organizations is we get the equivalent of damaged people. So people that have gone through a real suffering during their childhood or during their upbringing, whether it be bullying or abusive parents. And that leaves marks on the psyche. And you then enter the workplace and you're still dealing with that trauma. So that means you're not able to act with the necessary confidence and self-esteem. So again, I think organizations will have to take up part of this responsibility. And what's also interesting to me is this rise of the use of the coach. In Agile, of course, Agile coaches are everywhere, but I think both you and I can acknowledge that leadership coaching has become so much more important. And I think it is realizing that people need that kind of assistance. They need people just to talk them through stuff, to advise them, to bring them to a place of healing where they can be full contributors. And that's great for me in organizations when I see that. And I hope we'll see much more, and for many more levels of people in the organizations, not only the top guys, but give everybody in the organization an opportunity to have a regular coaching session.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and I think the coach is the medium through which the transformation takes place. It's almost, again, being the steward of the process. But I'm just smiling, thinking of how important it's become for each and every one of us as individuals start by leading ourselves, and therefore we then earn the right to lead others. But I think in that is where the transformation starts. You know, and I think the world just needs so much more leaders. It's for each one of us to show up and take command of our environment and ourselves, and really take responsibility and accountability for self. So it's that notion, you know, I get to lead others, but I first got to lead myself.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
100%. I'm very excited about Grayfeather, Amanda. One of the initiatives that you guys have been taking is to create a community of practice. Do you want to just highlight a little bit what that's about? Because we obviously want to share this, and you know, we want to engage and we want to invite, but just tell us, what is this community of practice all about?
Okay, so you know, I really like networking. I'm forever making coffee dates with people, and I just feel it's very necessary for me to do that, to maintain my sanity. And I always use these meetings to check my ideas, to sanity check, etc. I've also learned over the years that as human beings, I'm just being typical, and that we all have a huge need for social groups. And I hope we learned this from COVID. People that, I actually read such an interesting statistic the other day that said, if you don't have a society of people, a grouping around you, that's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day on your lifespan.
Oh my goodness.
How damaging it is for us, and how important it is for us to have groups. Now, many senior executives in business are quite alone, because you know, none of the other executives understand their field, and of course they can't always discuss things with people reporting to them. So we just wanted to create this space for people, and I say senior executives, but not, it's anybody really that's interested in HR as a topic, to come together and just discuss things and learn a little bit from each other. So we meet once a month. There's no cost, it's just a community, but once a month we get together and we present. Somebody presents on a topic of interest. Anybody can put up their hand, and we've had some really interesting discussions over the past few months. And then we also have 2 suggestions. One was for a kind of a community of practice book club, which we'll now explore with the community. And the other is to have a discussion session, so a session which is purely discussion on a topic. And the idea is for people just to have this group of resources where you can just share thoughts, ask a quick question if you need information, share news, etc.
Yeah, I just love the idea. It sounds like it's a synchronizing like-minded people that have the same interests, that's excited about where the future of work is going, and yeah, so you become you know, part of a bigger group, and how amazing is that?
Yeah, and it's just, you know, it's totally open for anybody. So even if you're a CEO of a company and you're interested in some of these topics, very welcome to join us. I think nearly every topic that we deal with is more strategic in nature than, it's not operational HR. You know, we're not discussing the CCMA or things like that. We're talking about the bigger movements in people and culture in organizations.
Yeah, so it's ideas, ideology, perception, paradigms, just addressing the common things that we are, and I think it's taking the conversations out of our heads and putting it on a platform where one can feel safe and you can share ideas, and yeah, maybe even challenge one another in terms of thinking.
That's right. Yes, and Lindie, you know, if we don't learn in this way, none of us are clever enough to master all the knowledge by ourselves. So we're so dependent now on each other to understand the world and to get on in the world.
Amanda, I'm getting excited just sitting here thinking about the possibility of collective intelligence and where this can be taking. And it's almost like you guys are scripting the future. And I must say, I'm part of the community. I feel so blessed every time to be just sitting there, witnessing and listening and learning. And it's such a great opportunity for everyone out there. So everyone watching this video, please jump on the Grayfeather. Is it on the website? Is there? How do people reach you guys? Where do they get in touch with you?
Lindie, I think the best way is our email addresses are on the website. So just drop us a note. We haven't even, because we also don't want to make it seem like it's Grayfeathers.
Okay.
Community, you know, we're trying to keep it neutral in that it's a community of interested people.
So it becomes our community, right? So, but you guys, it's just powered by you guys taking the initiative, and I think scripting and coordinating events and happenings. I do know that you've also initiated some coffee drink sessions, both in Gauteng and down in the Cape. So again, congratulations on taking the initiative. I think there's such a need out there. My final question to you, Amanda, and please forgive me, but I've got to poke your mind in terms of, you know, I'm sure people listening to this interview, there could be some of us that's just filled with absolute fear. Will there be a place for me? I mean, what does it say for me? You know, what's the future going to be like? What would you say? What makes you excited? Is this the time to be alive? And why would you say that? What if anything makes you excited, what would that be?
Look, Lindie, yes, I think it's definitely a time of lots of opportunities. I do think I don't want to coat it with sugar. I think nearly everybody, especially of our age, has experienced in the past couple of years a moment where we're thinking, what's my relevance? What, you know, can I still contribute here? And yes, that fear is real, and I do think we need to work to stay relevant. But if you think about it, as human beings, we've won the battle for survival. That was our first initial intent as a species. Now, everything that we do is about making the world a better place for all of us to live in.
True.
It doesn't matter which industry you are in. If you think about it, at the end of the day, your work is about creating a better living space for people, or a good experience, or some food, or something. But what we're doing all the time is try and find ways to make our lives better. And so in that sense, there are lots of challenges, but it just means that there are more opportunities than ever to live out and to address all of those challenges. So yeah, I really am always thankful to be alive in this day and age and to be experiencing everything that we're experiencing. And I think we haven't seen anything yet, baby.
Hold on for the ride. It's all happening, you know. And yeah, I actually read an astounding stat the other day that said almost as much as 65% of the youngsters starting school next year, the careers that they'll take up doesn't even exist at this stage. Even as high as 65% of them would one day be doing something that it's not in existence now. There's no career or job like that now. So I mean, that's 12 years away from here, and I better double up on my veggies. I'd like to stay fit and healthy so I can be part of this journey. Amanda, thank you so much. It was fantastic, and I mean, I can go on and on and on. You know, we are best friends. We enjoy one another's company, and it's always just for me so amazing to share these ideas and thoughts with you. So yeah, again, kudos to you and your partner Mike for really spearheading this amazing company, Grayfeather Consulting. What an amazing company, and good luck. God bless. And everybody, let's just watch this space. Amanda and Tribe is going places. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity, Lindie. And I'm actually, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm in Sandton at the moment.